The oppressive silence of Hotel Room 3014 was suffocating. I tossed and turned, utterly unable to sleep. Beside my bed, the small motion sensor nightstand lamp remained stubbornly illuminated, casting a sickly yellow glow across the blankets. I sighed, assuming the cheap hotel hardware was simply broken. But the very second I closed my eyes, the room was plunged into pitch blackness. The light had clicked off. A sudden, icy chill crawled up my spine. Those sensors are designed to extinguish only when a room is completely devoid of movement. If it had been on this whole time, and only turned off when I stopped moving, it meant someone, or something, was standing right beside my bed in the dark, watching me. Terrified, I snapped my eyes open and flinched. The light instantly clicked back on, as if the invisible observer had taken a step back, startled by my sudden movement. I couldn't take it anymore. I sat up, intending to shake my roommate, Wang Qiang, awake. But the words died in my throat. Wang Qiang was not in his bed. He was standing rigidly right next to me. His arms hung limply at his sides, but his eyes were wide, unblinking, and locked dead onto the sensor lamp. He looked entirely hollowed out, like a puppet whose strings had been cut, staring blankly as if communicating with an entity I couldn't see. Suddenly his neck snapped to the side with an unnatural stiffness. His vacant gaze tracked a slow, invisible movement across the room, following it all the way to the flat-screen TV mounted on the wall. Without warning, the TV screamed to life. A deafening blast of white noise and violent static filled the room. I scrambled backward, my heart hammering against my ribs, and frantically mashed the power button on the remote until the screen went black. The sudden silence was ringing. From his bed across the room, Wang Qiang violently jolted awake, as if roused from a deep, dreamless sleep. He rubbed his eyes and glared at me, his face twisting in genuine annoyance. "Are you out of your mind?" he snapped. "What are you doing turning the TV on in the middle of the night?" I stared at him, paralyzed. He was back in his bed. He had absolutely no memory of standing over me just seconds prior. The sheer terror of whatever invisible presence had been controlling him kept my mouth firmly shut. The next day was supposed to be relaxing. Our group of 4, Wang Qiang, Liu Meng, Lan Lan, and I, spent the day hiking up the mountain, but I couldn't shake the creeping dread. By the time we returned to the hotel that evening, my mind was made up. I stood in the hallway outside room 3014 and flat out refused to go inside. "Let's just switch rooms," I begged Wang Qiang. He scoffed, harshly rejecting the idea. "We're already settled. You're just making up crazy stories." I'm too tired to deal with this. Left with no other choice, I went to the front desk and booked my own room down the hall. Room 3030. I needed to be alone. I needed to feel safe. I had just finished a hot shower and was preparing to finally get some rest when frantic knocking rattled my door. I opened it to find Wang Qiang standing there, pale and sweating. His previous skepticism was completely gone. Trembling, he explained that while he was in the bathroom, his phone, left on the desk, had woken up on its own. It started scrolling through short videos, pausing to like certain ones, and actively swiping away the ones it didn't prefer. He finally believed me. There was a ghost, or an invisible person, in room 3014. Relieved that I wasn't losing my mind, I told him he could crash in my room. Wang Qiang collapsed into my bed and quickly fell into a deep sleep. I stayed up. The glow of my phone, the only light in the room. Then, a notification popped up. It was our 4-person travel group chat. My blood ran cold. Wang Qiang was sending messages. A flurry of photos from our hike appeared on the screen, accompanied by texts directed at Liu Meng and Lan Lan, asking if they liked the pictures. I slowly lowered the phone and looked at the bed. Wang Qiang was sound asleep, his breathing heavy and even. His own phone was resting silently on the pillow beside his head. If the real Wang Qiang was actively chatting in the group right now, who was sleeping in my room? I carefully swung my legs out of bed. The movement triggered the sensor light. The sudden brightness woke the figure in the bed. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, looking exactly, perfectly like my friend. "Where are you going?" the thing asked. I shoved my phone screen into his face, showing him the active group chat. "Explain this." The duplicate's face contorted in shock. "That's not me. I didn't send those," he yelled, throwing off the covers and lunging toward me, grabbing my arm. I screamed, violently shoving him away. I scrambled backward, tore the door open, and sprinted blindly down the hallway until I reached Liu Meng and Lan Lan's door. I hammered my fists against the wood. When Liu Meng finally opened the door, I was hyperventilating. I babbled frantically about the 2 Wang Qiangs, one in the group chat, one in my bed. They looked at me with a mixture of annoyance and pity, convinced I was just having a severe nightmare. Lan Lan, losing her patience, marched us down the hall to our original room 3014. She pounded on the door. A groggy, irritated Wang Qiang opened it. "What are you all doing here?" he grumbled. He acted exactly like the friend I knew. "He's right here," Lan Lan said, crossing her arms. "You're crazy." "No!" I yelled. "He's in my room, room 3030. Come look." I practically dragged them down the corridor to my new room. I pushed the door open, pointing triumphantly at the bed. The room was completely empty. The bed where the duplicate had been sleeping just moments ago was perfectly smooth, the blankets tucked in as if no one had ever touched them. He had vanished into thin air. Wang Tiang, furious at being woken up for a prank, began to curse at me. The humiliation stung, but the terror was worse. "Please," I begged Liu Meng and Lan Lan, "just let me sleep on your floor. I can't be alone." "Absolutely not," Lan Lan snapped. "We only have one bed. You're being ridiculous." They slammed the door in my face. I didn't dare return to either room. I immediately booked a return bus ticket on my phone and spent the entire night sitting rigidly in the brightly lit hotel lobby, texting the group that I was heading back to the university alone. At 8 a.m. sharp, the bus arrived. I was the very first person to board, choosing a window seat near the front. Slowly, the bus filled with other passengers. Every seat was taken, except for the one directly next to me. People would walk down the aisle, glance at the empty seat, and quickly look away, choosing to stand instead. Finally, the driver stood up. "All seats are full," he announced to the cabin, preparing to depart. "Wait!" I called out, my voice cracking. I pointed to the empty cushion beside me. "There's still a spot right here." The entire bus went dead silent. Every single passenger slowly turned their head to look at me. Their eyes were wide with a mix of horror and pity. It hit me like a physical blow. To them, the seat wasn't empty. There was someone, or something, sitting right next to me that I simply couldn't see. I endured the agonizing, paranoid ride back to my university, staring out the window, too terrified to even glance to my side. When I finally pushed open the door to my 4-person dorm room, I practically collapsed with relief. My other roommate, Zhou, was getting ready for his part-time job. "Why did you guys come back so early?" he asked casually, pulling on his jacket. My heart skipped a beat. "Guys? What do you mean, you and Wang Qiang? You literally just walked in together." I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. "Oh yeah, I was just tired. I'm going to sleep." Once he left, I crawled into bed, my mind racing. A few hours later, my phone rang. It was Zhou on his break. "Hey, I'm grabbing dinner. Do you want anything? Ask Wang Qiang if he wants me to bring him a portion too." "What?" I whispered. "Wang Qiang," Zhou repeated. "I ran into both of you when I was leaving earlier." As the words echoed through the speaker, footsteps approached my bed. The figure of Wang Qiang stepped into my line of sight. He looked at me expectantly. "Tell him to bring me a portion too," he said, his voice flat. I stared at him, paralyzed with a sickening dread. I remembered the WeChat posts. I hung up on Zhou and immediately dialed Liu Meng's number. "Hey, are you back at school yet?" Liu Meng asked cheerfully, the sounds of the mountain echoing in the background. "Yeah," I breathed. Are you with Wang Qiang?" "Of course," Liu Meng laughed. "He's right here taking pictures of Lan Lan." "Why? What's up?" I slowly lowered the phone. The Wang Qiang standing in my dorm room was frowning at me. "Why are you looking at me so weirdly?" he asked. He hadn't reacted at all to me saying his name on the phone. He had no connection to the reality Liu Meng was experiencing. The horrifying truth finally settled over me. Everyone's memories, including my own, were being manipulated, jumbled, and completely rewritten. The epicenter of this entire nightmare, the core anomaly, was Wang Qiang himself. And as I stared at the impossible duplicates standing in my dorm room, I realized that this entire chain of bizarre events originated from that very first night in the hotel. And there was one crucial, glaring detail from that night that I had completely, dangerously overlooked.